I'm Dean Zelinsky, and this is the podcast.
All right, we're back from NAMM.
Welcome, Parker.
Yeah, what a weekend.
Okay, can we say we were at NAMM?
Yeah.
Can I tell everyone it was your first NAMM show? Or
It was my first NAMM show.
Okay, Parker's first NAMM show.
Dean was busy talking it down like it wasn't like the old days and it was smaller than he's ever seen it. But for a first timer, I was blown away. There was just stuff everywhere, you know, everything from pro audio to guitars and basses. And it was busy. It was fun. It was really cool.
It actually was kind of busy, even though it's downsized from what it was. I mean, in its heyday. But, you know, all trade shows are getting smaller. I talked to other people in other industries, and their shows are just getting smaller because of
the economy.
Well, the information age, too.
Yeah.
You know, and less mom and pop stores.
Right.
And by the way, people always think we exhibit. Okay, I haven't exhibited in NAMM in decades. Well, years.
Yeah.
Maybe decade. And the reason is NAMM is for dealers to come and buy guitars.
Right.
And so if you set up your booth, it's really to sell guitars to dealers. We don't sell guitars to dealers.
Right, we're direct.
So we would have a bunch of guys come into our booth saying, I want your guitars, and we'd have to say, no. So people do the consumer thing a little bit, but as a rule, it's very expensive to do a NAMM show, and I can't go there and tell everybody I can't do business with you.
Right.
Write a big check. So anyways, we don't do it. We go and we have meetings with a lot of important people that we do business with.
Yeah, you want to divulge any of that? Some of it was kind of secret, but...
No.
What was your takeaway? I mean, we hung out with some cool people. We saw Ola, we saw Rita, we saw a lot of the gang, you know?
Yeah, we see the normal cool people. Ola's great.
Having some drinks with Jim Dunlop.
Yeah, so, Rita, obviously.
We caught the John 5 show, and
John 5.
Jared Nichols. He was insanely good tone, pretty cool guy.
Right. Well, John 5 was really cool.
Yeah. Maybe not your cup of tea, but...
Well, it was my cup of tea for a couple songs, a few songs, and then at the end of the night, it's kind of like...
I'm into that stuff. It was, it was fun to see him stand alone for the first time.
But he's an amazing guitar player, but now he's kind of like got his own like Jeff Beck thing where he does like... He plays like nobody else.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not like Jeff Beck, but the Jeff Beck played like nobody else.
He has his own distinct personality.
Yeah, and thing. And
visually, tonally.
And he's cool on stage, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that enough about NAMM?
Well, I think so. We're going to talk about the old NAMM, where we left off before. But more importantly...
By the way, 1977, about the same weekend, was the NAMM show we're talking about in this podcast. And this is what year? 2020. Yeah, my 47th year.
Jeez.
I'm only like 48.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
So that's kind of cool. So, I started young.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, but before we talk about the NAMM show, I mean the old NAMM show, we got to talk about Grady.
Yep, that was our pretty hot podcast.
Grady was here.
Yeah.
What a story.
What a dude.
I know, great story. Great dude, great story.
Yeah.
He's like Dime couldn't have had a better tech because everything that Dime was like this down home kind of guy.
Yeah.
Grady's that same guy.
Yeah.
Not as wild.
No.
But
very mellow.
Very technical.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a down home great human being.
Yeah. Probably balance the pH of the craziness of Dime. You know, you need to...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and by the way, it was a great podcast. The cool thing about this is my era, you know, I resisted like all these days with, bedroom guitar players and influencers and all that stuff when it first started going, because I like to give credit, not only people who could play guitar and do stuff, but who paid their dues and started out like in a band and made it.
Grinding it out
on the road. I mean, the band Kansas, the story, I mean, if you ever see, it's like 10 years grinding it out and getting signed and still not being anywhere, and then 4 albums later and all that stuff. And next thing you know, they're playing arenas and stuff.
Yeah.
That story is really cool, and it's very rare. I mean, if you talk about the amount of bands that actually made it to arena status,
right,
compared to the ones that tried,
Well,
it's a very
according to Grady, it was a very
Right.
linear, but they did, they started here and it was just this trajectory that never stopped.
That's true. And the band was undeniable. Mm-hmm. And that's what I kind of knew about Pantera's. The record company guy didn't have to be a genius to walk out there and see a line around the building and say, well, we got to sign these guys.
So, yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch the Grady podcast. It's cool. And yes, I interrupted a lot, but you would too if you were hanging out with Grady.
Well, Parker does a great job. He just gets a little enthusiastic.
It's cool.
But
onto the
we
old
love
Namm.
Parker. I don't care what those three people said. Okay.
Onto the old Namm Show then.
Yeah, the old Namm Show. I mean, I think, yeah.
We did the multi-part. We started with you kind of on your guitar building journey. We left off where you were on your way to Namm with a handful of guitars to display. And when you were ready to start setting up your booth, you were having some cracked lacquer issues.
Right.
Not what you want on your first exhibit.
It was a disaster.
Okay, so before we talk about that, we do need to do some circling back, which we do often on this podcast because there's a lot to say and a lot we overlook while we're doing this.
I have so much to remember. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So you're ready for your Namm, but what was the inspiration? How did you settle on, Dean as the name? How did you settle on your models? What was your business and your plan?
Okay, what we never talked about is what my plan was. Okay. We talked about I'm going to build Vs and Explorers, and they weren't going to be crappy Vs and Explorers. But my concept was shape guitars because rock and roll was getting pretty heavy, and people were still playing the same guitar, same shapes, like in the 50s, okay? And I knew about Vs and Explorers, and they weren't popular then. And the reason they weren't popular is because of the way they were made. So my concept for Dean guitars was take all the sought-after ingredients that are in a 58, 59 Les Paul and put it into a Flying V or an Explorer body style.
And those features would be?
Flame maple tops, binding on the body, ebony fingerboards. We used abalone inlays. No pickguards, by the way, which was not popular in that time,
Yeah, you mentioned that, and it's weird to think about, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I'm like, we don't need pickguards. I wasn't the first, but it was just like every Les Paul you ever bought had a pickguard on it at one time. So to take all those ingredients, combined with my custom slight V, rounded over binding neck, the neck that I invented while I was in my repair shop days. The V head, not only radical look, but radical string angles to pull the strings tighter at the nut. The string through the body, huge thing, sustained type things. So I put all these features that I knew about at the time when I was 18 years old.
The red side dots?
Yeah, the red side dots, which was just how it came about.
Yeah.
But all the original Dean guitars had red side dots.
That's for how many years?
Like a year.
Okay. So if you got a Dean with red side dots,
those are real collectible.
Okay.
And it's really weird how that came about because my friend Keith was helping me out. Keith was like my friend, and he was a mechanical guy.
Right.
And he says, "Hey, Dean, I got your side dots." I'm like, "What?" His father was in the packaging business.
Okay.
And one of his products he packaged was a thing called space clusters.
Okay.
It was this stupid thing. It was almost like, it had like a styrofoam ball, and you'd stick these plastic rods in it.
Okay.
And make like a spacey looking thing, or probably like what you'd see in science class or something.
A toy from the old days.
Yeah, but the plastic rods I think were exactly 5/64 of an inch, and they had red ones.
Yeah.
So I just had these red plastic rods, courtesy of Keith's father, who had tonnage of this stuff. So we were taking the plastic rods and hitting them in the holes and cutting them and hammering on them, and we had red. We were winging it. We were using whatever we can. But Keith came through with the side dots. So if you see an old Dean with red side dots, it came from space clusters.
So on the topic of other premium things that were separating your guitars. What I know the old Dean guitars had DiMarzios in them, and from my understanding, were you the first manufacturer to use aftermarket pickups like that?
I'm relatively certain that I was the first guitar manufacturer using DiMarzio pickups.
So what led you to that?
Well, I was installing them in a lot of Les Pauls in my repair days.
Okay.
And they just sounded. It was almost getting to the point where everyone buy a Les Paul and they'd find a place to get their DiMarzios installed.
Sure. Because pickups back then they varied a lot.
There was no such thing as aftermarket pickups.
Yeah, like a consistent model that was the same no matter when you bought it.
Before that, I mean, the only brand pickups out there was something like DeArmond or something. There was no branded pickup. When I talk about this NAMM show, you're going to hear about this, but we all converged at the NAMM show. All this stuff was going on. We were all hot rodding.
Yeah.
Because Gibson had been so devoid of technology and innovation and had moved so far backwards that it just left this huge void for people to innovate.
Right.
And you had like DiMarzio and Duncan making pickups and other people making guitars and Charvel making parts, necks, and bodies. They were doing that long before they were making guitars. So all this underground stuff was happening. But my point is, I knew, like everyone was just buying Les Pauls and putting DiMarzios in them. So my thing is, I'll put DiMarzios in my...
Just have them in there already.
Yeah, so when it's hanging on the wall in the music store, it's going to sound better off the shelf,
right.
Which they did. And I will tell you that maybe Hamer will say, oh, they had DiMarzios, but they weren't manufacturing. There was a garage. It was a basement operation.
Okay.
They were building one-off guitars.
Yeah.
And I went in. So they might have been on the market first, but I was in manufacturing and supplying. Really
right out of the box.
Building a production line of guitars with DiMarzios out of the box.
Cool.
So we'll talk to Larry about that someday, but pretty sure it was me.
Okay, so that's the name, though.
The name. Okay, so we have to circle back. Gary Gann was like my mentor.
Yeah.
Okay, he was older than me. He was kind of hip. He knew what was going on. He'd been to NAMM shows. So as I'm developing the Dean guitar, I'm going and talking to him. I might have still even been taking lessons from him, but he was an innovator, and he's like, "What are you doing? He's talking. He's like, I'm going to the NAMM show. He says, I've never been to a NAMM show, so he was going to help at the NAMM show, which we'll talk about.
So his first and your first NAMM show?
No, he's been to NAMM shows.
Okay.
He's in the music business. He's 4 years older than me.
Got it.
I think I went to the Summer NAMM in Chicago that year, but I never really was at a NAMM show like as a manufacturer.
Yeah.
So we're going to the NAMM show. I needed a lot of help. But you talk about the name. How did we come up with the name Dean?
Yeah.
Ask me.
How'd you come up with the name Dean? It seems obvious, but...
It wasn't.
Yeah?
Gary Gann.
Okay.
I'm in him. I'm there, and I'm showing him the prototype VM building. He's like, "What are you going to call it?" Like, I don't know.
Did you even have a prototype name or anything at all?
No. It's like I'm building guitars. It's just one step in the process that I hadn't covered yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I thought about it that much. Anyway, so he says, "Call him Dean." I'm like, "No." He's like, "No, it's cool." I'm like, "No, I hated my name. I always hated the name Dean."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "No," and he's like pushing me. "Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool." And so I said, "Okay."
Okay.
I mean, Zelinsky wasn't going to be on the head.
We tried that.
Right. So it was, too much. So I didn't like it. But as soon as I went to that guy, Gary Mann, and he did that crude bone thing.
Yeah.
And I saw the name Dean, it kind of looked okay.
Yeah.
It looked,
You got to see it fleshed out to like appreciate it.
Yeah, see it like see your name in lights.
Yeah.
So anyways, and then when I got the finished logo, it just looked good and it worked. But yeah, I don't know if it'd be called Dean Guitars today if it wasn't for Gann saying, call it Dean.
Yeah.
So anyways, then we're going to the NAMM show. And Gann was the guy. "Hey, I'll go out there." I had to fly him out there. Gary Gann has this wife named Joan.
Okay.
I don't know if they're married at the time, but they don't do anything without each other. You're flying Gary, you're flying Joan. They play in band together, everything. So anyways, I flew him out. And I had to fly out Zan. So while we're driving out, and you heard that horror story that kind of ended in the episode, what was it, 3?
Yeah.
which we're about to talk about. It wasn't just me and Keith going to the NAMM show. There was a whole contingency
Little entourage.
that I was flying out.
Little entourage, yeah.
Oh, entourage, yeah. We're not talking about that. So there's a whole contingency flying out for support at the NAMM show and to work the booth and help with the party. And Gann was the guy who said, you got to throw a party out there. It'll be great. And he set up the party. And it was weird because this is going to be so obscure, but he was really into he was a great rocker, but he was also into this fusion stuff. And he got all involved with the Emmett Chapman stick.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
Isn't it like a weird, is it the drumstick or is it the weird
The stick was like a fingerboard, bass and guitar all in one. It was called a stick. And Emmett Chapman.
Yeah.
And he promoted the hell out of it for years, and it kind of limped along.
Who plays that? Someone currently is still playing that in some weird fusion band. Yeah, I don't know.
It was, tap-on stuff.
I get it,
which
yeah.
everybody ended up doing on guitars and doing it better. But so the band was going to have Emmett Chapman and the stick. So if you see the pictures, Emmett Chapman's there with the stick. But then we had other people at the party. Mm-hmm. It was a little weird.
Okay.
The stick thing. But anyways, I was young. We're getting the NAMM thing going, and Gary Gann wanted, so that was the party.
Any other notable figures?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
This is probably.
I remember seeing pictures of you at NAMM, with Seymour Duncan, and I think with Larry and other people, but I don't know if any of them were there.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about the NAMM show.
Yes.
And go to the NAMM show. So I just wanted to circle back in because we didn't really cover. It's like Dean and Keith are going to the NAMM with these guitars and blah, blah, blah.
It did sound like there were just two people going.
Yeah, but it was a much bigger event about to happen. So we left off. You can tell where we left off.
You were getting ready to set up your booth. You brought 9 guitars or something like that. And as you were opening them up, there was cracked lacquer on your guitars that were meant to be on display.
Every guitar that was in the back of the van froze on the trip, because it was cold in the van. And when we get to it was Anaheim area, get to my aunt's house where we're staying, I open up the van and the finish on every guitar is cracked.
Wasn't there one that was okay?
One survived.
Okay.
So now I'm in panic mode. I've been in the repair business for a long time.
Yeah.
2-3 years now. I've never been able to repair a finish crack.
Yeah.
And now I got 9 guitars worth of finish cracks.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I got to repair this.
Hold on. How many hours away was the NAMM show when you realized this?
I think I'm 2 days in, 2 days out.
Okay.
2 days, we have to have the thing set up. So we're in my aunt's house. We got all the guitars out of the cases, laid out on countertops, couches, tables, picnic bench, wherever we can. And now I go to the hardware store and I buy acetone.
Okay.
And I'm thinking I can just lay acetone onto the cracked things and fuse them back together.
Yes.
Which was I think I knew I had a snowball's chance in hell, but I had to try. So we got them all laid out, and, meantime, I'm calling back to Chicago, Zan, saying, tell him what's going on. This disaster's going on. He's like, come on, you can fix it, and, supporting me and all this stuff. Zan, my marketing guy. So we laid them out, and we had it like a bead of acetone just sitting on there and watching it, thinking that it's going to melt and stuff.
Was it working?
Lay it overnight, and the next day the crack's still there, but we have this big sink in the lacquer from. Go out and get a buffer and sand, hand buffer and drill. I bet my aunt had a drill because she was pretty mechanical. And we got the buffing pad, and we're sanding and buffing, and anyways, it wasn't going to happen.
The anxiety, I can only imagine.
So now, your show's ruined in your mind, but you got to make it happen. So we got the bright idea. We had 3 guitars that were presentable from the front.
Okay.
And we had 1 guitar that was workable.
Yes.
The walnut brown sunburst V.
What were the other 3 that were visible?
There was an ML, I think. I don't know.
Did you have one of every model?
There were 3. I think so. We'll have to look
That's
at the pictures.
crazy lucky, yeah.
So we got leather straps, leather shoelaces. We tied the 3 to the wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
No one pulled these off.
Nobody could pull them off.
Yeah.
If they did, they would see cracks. And we worked with the one guitar at the booth.
What was the one that was fully
It was,
playable?
it was a Flying V.
Okay.
And it was a flawless guitar.
Nice.
Anyways, I will tell you that V performed like a Dean guitar.
Yeah.
We had an amp there. The thing played and sound. It was everything a Dean guitar was. So that's what we used for the show. And we got through the show.
Good.
I think we literally told people, that we had what happened. I think we were just upfront and honest. We had a bunch of guitars. They cracked in those days, finish cracks were pretty normal. I mean, stores would get Gibsons in with finish cracks.
That.
Yeah,
So you had been saying, one of the biggest differences, one of the main things that NAMM is for dealers to buy guitars.
Right.
So you're there. It's your first NAMM show. I already know who your first client is, but who's coming to your booth? What are you locking down?
Okay, we've got our 4 guitars that we can work with. We set up the booth. It was a crude booth. It was 10 feet tall. It had these really cheesy cloth panels with 2 side returns, cheesy Dean logo that we made out of styrofoam, put lights on it, set it up. Day one, now those days the NAMM shows were 3 days. Keep in mind, this is West Coast show, the first one at the Disneyland Hotel.
Okay.
And we were in because we were late to come, we were in a room called the Embassy Room, whatever that was. But it was part of the hotel. So we set up, literally Friday morning, set up shop, and we're ready to go. And I'm sitting there, and Gann was there, and my friend Keith, we're just, working the booth. Zan came up. By the way, Zan handled all the printing and all that. We're set up, ready to go, as crude as it was. Anyways, the first dude who comes by is Jerry Ash.
Yeah.
Who said, I'm going to, he saw that teaser ad, and he says, I'm going to come by, and if they're as good as they are, as you say they are, we're going to buy them.
And again, for those who don't know, Jerry Ash is
The owner of Sam Ash Music.
right. Big deal.
Right, big deal. Who was the biggest music store at the time? He came by, he looked at the guitars, said, I like them, and he ordered 3. A V, a Z, and an ML.
Okay.
So Jerry Ash buys the first 3 guitars, right? And then more dealers are coming by, and they're just browsing and showing them what they got. And as soon as they come by, I'm savvy enough to say, oh, by the way, Jerry Ash was just here. He just bought 3 guitars.
Yeah, pretty mad flex.
So you dropped Jerry. Everyone knew who Jerry Ash was. If you were in the music business, if you had a store, you knew who Jerry Ash was.
Yeah, so they want to hop on the cool train.
So they all hop on the train. Or a V, a Z, an ML. V. I wouldn't let anyone buy 1. You had to buy 3.
Okay.
So we're going through the show, and dealers are coming by and buying guitars.
Yeah.
And we're playing at the booth, and people are checking them out, and people are looking at the ones on the wall, and I'm hoping they don't look around and find the cracks. But anyways, the show was a huge success.
So when we were at NAMM, and what I think a lot of people my age, watch on YouTube is there's always artists playing and repping gear. Were there any notable artists doing clinics or showing stuff off? Did anyone cool play your stuff?
It wasn't so big. No, not at my booth.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I was new. I had no artists. Okay.
Yeah.
But what was going on at NAMM? We're busy selling guitars, but there was this buzz going on at the NAMM show. Okay. It was this buzzing thing going around, and DeMarzio was there, and BC Rich, I met Bernie Rico. BC Rich had a booth. Charvel had a booth. There are other guys that aren't in the business today. They were making pickups, other pickup guys and things like that.
Yeah.
But there was this buzz going on because all these new companies were at the West Coast NAMM. Well, first of all, the show had never been on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of...
So there's this new thing.
Yeah, but there's a lot of startup dudes out there.
Yeah.
That now can go to the NAMM show easy because it's in their turf. So all these guys showed up at the show. And it was just this, it's hard to describe it, but it was this whole buzz thing going on of this new breed of manufacturers that was going to be big.
Yeah, because even still, rock and roll's pretty young, but
Right.
every hit that most people know wasn't even written yet.
Yeah,
you know?
all the music you guys you hear on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm we were there when it first came out, the album, So that was all going on. I mean, it's 1977, and rock and roll was pretty relatively new.
Right.
So anyways, this whole big thing was going on. It was a buzz, 3 days of just rocking and rolling, and anyways, after 3 days, we walked out of there with $45,000 worth of orders.
Yeah, and we can adjust for inflation, but that's not a bad first run there.
Right. I set up, everything was a crash and burn, but we set up anyways, and I walk out of there with $45,000 worth of guitars to build.
That's awesome.
Which, by the way, everything that led up to this was quite a story because, it was making the Namm Show. Mm-hmm. But now it really starts.
Yeah, now you got to back up what you just did. Yeah.
I got to I have to make guitars. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because we didn't talk about this, but I never thought I could make a guitar as good as Gibson.
Okay.
And I'm going to be back in Chicago building guitars. And it's weird because Zan had put out this advertising, the new standard of excellence.
Yeah.
And he had this really hyped up quality thing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking quality, I was thinking features.
Yes.
I can make maple, flame maple guitars and a guitar that's really cool. I didn't think I could put on a finish as good as a Gibson.
Was the finish always the scariest aspect for you?
Totally.
Okay.
But I didn't think I could do it.
Okay.
But Zan had set the bar so high in the advertising. And
you're like, shit.
And if I'm anything, I'm not a bullshitter. Mm-hmm. If I put it out there, I had to back it up. So because Zan did all this marketing and, we had this thing, they're the greatest at quality. I had a mountain to climb. And so I really did put out a quality guitar. Mm-hmm. But it was because of the marketing that like I said, I was just thinking about putting out cool guitars. I didn't think, the finishes had to be this.
Well, a good thing for him, know.
Anyways, because of Zan, I made really quality guitars.
Yeah.
And I've got a reputation for very quality guitars, and it's served me well over the last 40-something years.
Okay, so, Zan, pushing your limits and getting the quality up and everything. Let's circle back to Namm, though. So this is your first Namm show. You sold a lot. Overall, what's going through your head? Like, how did you feel and stuff?
I felt great. I remember just feeling like, whoa, I'm now in business.
Yeah.
Because you remember I told about the accountant, the guy who did the bookkeeping and when you going to quit?
Yeah.
Now I'm at the Namm show. I got $45,000 worth of orders. Yeah. I'm officially in business.
You're going to show him?
I'm 19 years old. I'm Dean Zelinsky. I brought my brand, my design, my whole concept to Namm, and I'm walking out with $45,000 worth of orders.
Right.
I know I got a huge task ahead of me.
But that's a pretty good step in the right direction.
Yeah, it worked.
Given all
I literally, people go to Namm shows and don't sell anything.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that.
So, for me to walk out of my first Namm show with my concept, blah, 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 and have $45,000 worth of orders was huge.
So you've got your sales, the trip back home.
Yeah, so these guys everyone's flying back.
Yeah.
Keith and I are driving the van.
Okay.
With the fucked up guitars.
And the fucked up heat.
And the booth and the heat and all that stuff. But anyways, we were so wiped because, every Namm show I ever did, I think in my life, it was a ton of work to get to Namm. And then you got to be on your game for 4 days. Mm-hmm. This was 3 days. But then after that, you just want to pass out because you're working. So Keith and I decide we're driving home, pack up the van, kiss my Aunt Roz goodbye. On cloud 9, but we're driving home. Mm-hmm. But we're going to stop in Vegas.
Okay.
Had
you been to Vegas prior?
I don't think I'd ever been to Vegas.
Okay.
If I had, my father had his own plane. Mm-hmm. It was a stopover on the way to California or something. Maybe we went. Maybe they took us to, but not as a grown up. I never was in Vegas, never gambled. So anyways, we're driving there. And keep in mind, I'm 19. I'm not old enough to drink, gamble, or anything. Somehow I could pull off a Namm show and sell $45,000 worth of guitars, but I'm not old enough to do anything but sure.
Okay.
So anyways, we stop in Vegas. We're in the black van. Park, and there's casinos. Mm-hmm. So Keith and I are like, let's go in a casino.
Is Keith older than you?
No, he's my age.
Okay.
Few months younger.
Yeah, okay.
So we're parked, and by the way, this isn't like Vegas with MGM and Bellagio. This is Vegas with the Desert Inn.
And a cactus.
By the way, I got married in Vegas.
Okay.
Stayed at the Desert Inn.
Nice.
That was years later. But so this is like the old kind of strip kind of Vegas, okay, with the normal size stuff where Dean Martin used to hang or whatever, Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
It was still cool, but so we go into a casino. I know nothing about gambling. I don't have a ton of money, I don't think. So we start playing nickel slots. So I just get, break up $100. I don't know. I'm sitting there playing nickel slots, and things are kind of going pretty good. And all of a sudden, a security guard comes by me, starts looking, and I'm playing, and all of a sudden he's like, "You got your ID?" And I'm like, "No." Okay. So now I got all these nickels.
You're winning though? You're doing all right?
Yeah, I was doing okay.
Nice.
So I put them in my pocket, fill up my pockets, I walk out. Anyways, go down, a few more casinos. Keith and I go in a casino, gambling a little while longer, just, sneaking it.
Yeah.
Eventually a security guy comes by and says, "Can I see your ID?" I'm like, "No." "Okay, get out." Once again, a bunch of nickels, I throw them in my pockets, walk out. Third casino.
Yeah, how many did you hit?
3.
Okay.
And it's like, anyways, we went to the third casino. We played as long as we could. And eventually a security guy comes up and he's like, "Okay, hit it, your ID." By the way, I'm 19. If I look 16, there's no way I wasn't going to get carded. So once again, threw all the nickels in my pocket, hit the road. I mean, Keith and I were like, "Okay, this ain't going to work. We got to leave Vegas." So we just start driving towards home. We're taking turns driving and all that stuff. And somehow, it was kind of midday. We're in Utah.
Middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere, Utah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm driving, and all of a sudden, a cop pulls up behind and got the lights on. So
Were you speeding?
No.
Just had out-of-state plates.
Out-of-state license plate, long hair, black hippie van.
Not a good combo.
And it's the later 70s, okay?
Yeah.
And by the way, nothing ever happened in my life that wasn't a story, okay? The ride home had to be a story. I don't know. So I get pulled over. Cherries are going and looking in my mirror and stuff. The guy pulls me over. First thing he says is, "Hey, can I see your license?" Pull out my license. He's like, "You tired?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine." He goes, "You're swerving all over the road." I'm like,
Ugh.
"No, I'm not."
Yeah.
He goes, "You want to get out of the car?" We could get out of the car. Keith gets out of the car. Keep in mind, this van is chock full of Namm guitars in the booth and luggage and brochures and all. That's just loaded up. Anyways, he starts looking on my floor of my car, of my van. Found a marijuana seed. He goes, "This here, sir, is a marijuana seed. That gives me probable cause to search your vehicle." As he does that, the seed drops on the ground.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Cool." Anyway, so he's scrambling down on the ground
On the side of the
on
road?
the side of the highway.
Jesus.
Somehow he locates the seed. Maybe he had another one in
His own plant. that he
maybe
almost
he had
loses.
another one in his pocket. Now, there is a snowball's chance in hell that I had a seed on my floor. I probably bought 1 ounce of pot in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And it could have been there, but I don't think so. He picks up this seed, and then he's like, "This gives me probable cause." He puts it in some envelope and said, "I want to search the van." Takes us out back of the van. First, he searches us. I have a blank gun in my pocket, in my coat pocket, which is weird because I'm not a gun guy. But my father had this blank gun that he kept in his drawer, and for some reason, I'm going on the road, and I grabbed it, put it in my pocket. So he pulls this blank gun out, and I'm like, "It's a blank gun," because I'm like being shaken down.
Sure,
I'm
you're probably horrified.
19 years old. He fires, nothing happens,
Yeah.
That was cool. And then he's like, got the van out and he's searching. He starts going for the luggage. And Keith had this briefcase full of vitamins. Just loose like a million vitamins.
Wow.
This guy opens it up. I think he thought he hit the mother load of drugs or something.
Yeah.
And Keith's like, they're vitamins. And then he starts looking and figures out they're all vitamins. Anyways, he searches. What?
Just here's a funny anecdote. Yeah. When we went on tour once, we sold little tins filled with like picks, like a 10-pack of guitar picks. Yeah. We couldn't figure out where to get tins. We found this company that would sell customized like Altoid tins, right? Mm-hmm. But they wouldn't sell them to you without the mints. So we ordered probably 1,000 mint cases, dumped all the mints into a plastic bag, and we forgot we had them when we were going to the Canadian border. So we have just a bag of like 5 pounds worth of mints that just clearly looks like drugs. And right as we're pulling up to the border check, we just throw them out the window because it's like that's the last thing you want seen.
Right.
Anyway, carry on.
So now he's really searching the van, but it's pretty clear there's guitars. There's, this is not a drug van.
Your alibi checks out.
Right, everything checks out. But he's not having it. He's got to bust us. Mm-hmm. So he says, okay, follow me to the station. So get back in the car, in the van, and I got to follow this guy. This is somewhere in Utah. I have no idea what town. But we get to the station. It's like this one horse.
Like a movie set almost?
Yeah, almost like, it's like, I don't know, Barney and, Barney Fife and Andy, okay?
Yeah.
There's the sheriff and him. Anyways, I'm like, they're like writing me up a ticket. I don't know why they had to take me to the station, but they're writing me up a ticket and for swerving or whatever I did. And they're like, how do you want to pay the fine? I'm like, I'm leaving. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I don't get my day in court. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I had a Plymouth Cuda when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of experience getting tickets and stuff.
Yeah, it's so I've heard.
That car was extremely fast before I got to the van. I also got busted for transportation of open liquor. And my uncle, the lawyer, got me off. So I had a little experience in trials.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, this is no fair. I'm leaving. I said, I deserve my day in court. So the sheriff guy, not the cop, says, you want to have court? I said, yeah. He goes, okay, right now. He opens these double doors, and it's the courtroom, like attached to the sheriff, to the police station. Yeah. So he's okay. So we walk into the...
Tell me he's not the judge.
He's the judge.
This sounds so fake. Like
this is like my cousin Vinny.
Yes, okay. Yeah. The two Utes.
Okay, so we don't... There's the thing set up where the judge hangs, but we don't go there. We're at the table where the...
like the prosecutor.
Yeah, where the lawyers sit.
Sure.
And all of a sudden he picks up the gavel. He's like, court's in session. And he has the cop put on the case.
Yeah.
I saw this vehicle, blah, 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 swerving, blah, and he's putting on the case. So the cop does his thing, and then it's my turn. Mm-hmm. By the way, I know I'm being railroaded.
Yeah.
They know they're railroading me, and everyone's kind of...
I'm so mad.
They're kind of laughing, and I'm laughing, because I know I'm being screwed with.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not getting anywhere, but I got to give it the shot.
Sure.
So I start putting on my case. Mm-hmm. They're laughing at me. I'm laughing. And I just put on my case, asked them, a bunch of questions, blah, 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 and finally get to the end of my spiel, whatever it was. And the sheriff judge guy just picks up the gavel. Guilty as charged.
God, that sucks.
I know.
So what was the official charge, though? Was it swerving? Was
swerving,
it marijuana? What
something
was it?
Stupid like swerving or reckless driving or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're laughing at me. I'm laughing at them. And I had to get the last laugh.
Okay.
So what do you think he does?
What?
He says, how do you want to pay the bill?
Yeah.
You know what I did?
Pay him in nickels?
I went like this.
How much was the ticket?
I made them count all the nickels.
Yeah.
I paid the whole fine in nickels and made those two assholes count it.
That's amazing.
And I guarantee you, those two fucks,
Yeah.
they're still telling the story today if
I
they're
bet.
alive.
Yeah. Huh.
So,
If anyone here watching this is related to either of those men, please chime in because this is hilarious.
so that's how I paid the fine.
Okay, hold on. So,
But anyways, I was savvy enough to get myself out of trouble and
Yeah.
make the two cops laugh their ass off and get the last laugh.
did you break even
On
from your like Vegas winnings?
I don't think I did the math.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
That's a very Dean move.
I do have another Vegas story.
Here we are.
I lost half my net worth in Vegas.
When?
Hold on. It was 1988.
Okay.
I got married.
Oh, I was waiting for something way more dramatic than that.
But I did pay for my marriage license with gambling winnings.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now you've paid this horrible, stupid ticket in a
Right.
hilarious fashion.
Right. Okay.
What's next?
We drive home.
Yeah.
So the rest of the ride home, with the exception of, what do you call it, going through the Grand Canyon. Mm-hmm. Like we're driving through the Grand Canyon and there's like these ledges and stuff, and I'm not good with it.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Just the steep drop-offs and stuff?
yeah, like this isn't good. So we got drunk. We went and got some Coors beer. You know, those days, Coors beer it didn't come to this side of the Mississippi.
Okay.
It was a West Coast thing. And
Sure.
by the way, everyone used to go to Colorado and get Coors beer and bring it back. That was a big thing in
Weird
Chicago.
to think about, but okay.
Yeah, a lot of things didn't come this way, including HBO, which is another story because we'll talk about the Doobie Brothers sometime and how they got famous playing they were playing my guitars and I couldn't see it because it was on HBO.
Huh.
But so anyhow, we got Coors beer, and of course up at altitude you get buzzed really quick. Plus I was like
Young.
19 and a waif, and
Yeah.
we drove through there drunk, and that's how I made it.
There we go.
And then we go back to Chicago, and the rest is like
Crunch time.
setting up, really manufacturing guitars.
Yeah.
So that's probably another episode.
Okay, so that was your first NAMM show.
It was big.
Yeah, pretty eventful.
You know, the old saying, nothing happens till you sell something.
Well, you sold it. You know,
It wasn't officially sold
almost
because
50 grand. Yeah.
yeah,
But,
we literally had to build them and actually complete the transaction and take the money,
yeah.
which, by the way, didn't happen. We went to our second NAMM show, which was in June. So 6 months later, we hadn't shipped a guitar yet.
Okay. So wait, so there were 2 NAMM shows in the same year?
Every year, that was the first winter NAMM show, but every year there was
Okay.
always a winter and a summer NAMM show after that.
Yeah.
Okay. There's always a NAMM show in June. And then that was the first year they started the January thing.
Okay, so 6
West
months
Coast.
transpired.
Hadn't
In that time, you're okay. So this is where we're gonna pick up for podcast episode number 6. Is basically teeing up to build stuff.
We're not sure it's going to be episode 6, but
Well,
we will. Yeah, I get home, have to work out a ton of problems to manufacture guitars. Literally have another NAMM show going on.
Yeah.
Didn't ship a guitar prior to that NAMM show,
Right.
but people hung in there.
Yeah, and there's some celebrities in there on that second NAMM show. So we'll
And then
talk.
the second NAMM show, I land my first rock star.
Yeah.
And that NAMM show, we actually have like 12, 13 guitars ready to go, not cracked, ready to ship. And this rock star bought one of those guitars
Yep.
and paid for it.
Yeah.
So my first guitar I ever sold was to Kerry Livgren of Kansas.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty legendary.
And that's kind of a cool story, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so I got lucky.
Yeah.
But he liked the guitar.
Well, then we'll
And then we could talk about first time I saw my guitars on stage, and there's more stories.
all right. Well, then we'll pick up on all that on a future podcast.
Okay, well, this I think has been fun,
Pretty good.
and till next time.
Till next time. Yep.